And welcome back to Survivor Hot Takes, part 4 of our trip down memory lane with the Black winners of
What a
Survivor.
trip it's been, Andrew. It's
What
been a
a
moment.
trip it has been. Sadly, we are ending with Ghost. Oh no, it's fun. Uh, uh, Joined as always by Emily, aka.
Today it's who plays is always better than how you play it. And we're going to touch on that. That's a very, very big theme for today. And I think that that's something that really kind of reiterates the purpose of the entire Ghost Island.
My name is very generic. It's Navidi Strong because
I think
that's the
good.
real moral of Ghost Island is staying Navidi Strong no
For
matter what.
real. Stay away from orange, right? It was orange, wasn't it? Orange is bad.
No, purple's bad.
Oh, this is awkward. Okay, we're already off to a great start.
I'm pretty sure purple's bad. I might be
Okay.
wrong. I don't know. We'd literally just finished watching the season within the last 24 hours, and we already
Yeah.
forgot about crucial plot points. But that's not a knock on the winner or the runner-up or the runners-up, as we will talk about later. I think just going right into it. I think the problem that Ghost Island runs into is I liked the concept when I first heard about it.
Mhm.
And then you realize, wow, there's not really that many like famous Survivor relics past like Eric's idol and the stick and
James
James's
Immunity.
two idols. Yes.
Yeah.
There's really not that many famous relics that you can run an entire season based off of this theme.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Survivor just didn't realize that as well, which is why most of the time people went to Ghost Island, they didn't find anything, which if you're going to have something like this, yes, every now and then maybe throw in like, oh, you didn't find anything. But I think, I won't say the majority, but there was a large portion of, especially the pre-merge, where people would go and there'd be nothing. It's like, well, what's the point of following them to Ghost Island then? Like, and like,
Right. And,
why
and
do
it
I,
was like a lot of dead screen time.
yeah, and why do I care about, I don't know, the, the, see, I already forgot the names of the
Idol?
legacy advantage. The legacy
Oh,
advantage. I don't care about it. It's fine. Like,
right. Now, that's interesting that you feel that way, that you thought there were too little, because I actually thought there were way too many advantages, especially like, I mean, I think there was, they had 11 collectively, I think 11 or 12. No, it was definitely 11, because Jeff said in the reunion that 7 out of the 11 proved to continue to be like not effective. Yeah, which is crazy. Yeah, and also like I just think that 11 is a lot, because we continue to we spiral into this advantage gate sort of situation where we even saw in this season, we got a taste of it, where like everyone had advantages in the final 5 and there wasn't really room to have effective gameplay, especially with a powerhouse duo like Dom and Wendell.
Yeah, and I think another thing that really, I won't say bothered me, more annoyed me about this season is how heavily they go into the whole, oh yes, this was a fake idol, but because it spent time on Ghost Island,
It's
now
recharged,
it's,
and
yes, the Survivor gods have like spooked it into becoming like a real thing. It's like, okay,
yeah.
like I get doing this in like the year 2000 when all this campiness is what TV is like, but in 2018, 2017, camp when it comes to this show is like, I feel, at least in my opinion, it's kind of out the window. I don't care about the Survivor gods turning the stick into a real idol or anything like that. Just
Right.
to
I
the
think
point.
yeah, you're right. I think that part was a little bit hokey, but I really appreciated the fact that they were the actual relics,
Yeah, that was cool.
which is really cool, because I did like a little bit of reading. I wanted to make sure that I was well versed in this season, because this is a season that sometimes slips my mind. So I did a lot of reading before, and like I didn't realize that these were the actual relics, because I was like, oh, they probably just like made ones that looked similar, because they always auction them off. Usually the money goes to some sort of charity, yada yada yada. But like they actually were able to bring them back to the island to be utilized, which I thought was like the coolest thing, like
Yeah.
out of the entire series.
Yeah, and the also the issue that the season is going to run into is you can't ever do it again. You can't, like, they dropped the ball the first time. Cool. You can't do it again because what else is left?
It's very
There's
true.
nothing else left. I mean, I guess you could just do it based off of all the twists that happened in 41. I don't think anyone's going to want that, but
Yeah.
I think that Ghost Island, like I said, the concept seemed so interesting, and for them to drop the ball as much as they did, and not even and a lot of the flack that the season gets is something that I actually don't agree with, and I think you can agree with this. Is a lot of people say, "Oh yeah, the cast is doesn't count
Vanilla
except
or
Wendell and Dom." It's like that's not true because
yeah.
Jonathan has a very big online following. I know the Sebastian does. I know Michael Yerger does. And as my name says, Navidi Strong, I loved Kellen towards the end.
Yeah.
And even people like Desiree. Chelsea has a backing now because of how invisible she was. There,
Does she really? I didn't know
yeah,
that.
yeah. It's kind of like how Purple Kelly has a following because
Purple
they
Kelly,
screwed her
R.I.P.
over.
Yeah.
Um,
And that is
so
like the big thing. Like whenever we were talking and like planning this entire like episode, like prior to recording, like we were like, well, like what were some of the people that like really stuck out to you, you know? Because I think that a lot of these people had potential to have really big stories, but it fell down to just the simple editing, you know,
mhm.
and like really building on why Wendell deserved to win at the end of the series, you know? And for me, like I talked to you about how much I loved Stephanie, second Stephanie, the single mom with 2 kids, loved her, wish she would come back. Even Jacob, I wish he stayed longer. Like they had so much potential for such great stories and such great depth. And I just feel that it really kind of fell flat because it was just like
Yeah,
but by the end, yeah.
very early it was the Dom versus Chris show. And
Yeah.
then once Chris goes, it becomes the Dom and Wendell show featuring Jonathan and Kellen every now and then and like
Yeah, a little sprinkle
Sebastian's.
of Kellen. Laurel
Yeah.
may bubble up every once in a while and simmer right back
Yeah.
down, you know.
And like the problem I have with that is the same problem I have with Samoa, where it's like I like even if I wanted to like Russell, which I don't, I can't because I'm being over. They're just throwing him at me so much. It's like I don't care anymore.
Right.
But the difference with that and Dom and Wendell is I think because they spread the wealth between the two of them. I never really got tired of either one of them. It was just
No.
more that it felt like the show was basically saying, "Hey, these are the
Yeah.
only two people that you need to care about. Don't care about anyone else that's on the show right now, and especially don't care about Chelsea. What don't we'll give her 3
Right.
confessionals and we'll call it a day." And I think that's what annoyed me more than like I like both of them, but the problem is the fact that they production put all emphasis on these two, and we don't know about everybody else. We know that Kellen is Navidi
Right.
Strong. We know that Jonathan is a good old boy who's gay and lives with his grandmother, or
He's
he'll
a
take care of his
caretaker.
grandmother.
Yeah, he's a
Yeah,
caretaker for his mom, and like, and it is like, he
yeah,
had like such a beautiful story that I again
and a
like
beautiful accent
all of
too.
these people. Yeah, and Angela was like this ex military member who had to leave her kids all the time, and she had this really great like arc story where like she was kind of an underdog for a long time, and then she played the food the food eating challenge. You see this complete hero rise from the ashes and like claim her identity. There's so many people here who had little hero stories. So I just like to me as a viewer, like I just wish that they were able to build onto that to make them more visible for all of us instead of just us super fans.
And Michael Yerger was 19, which is like huge.
That
Laurel was a
kid.
super
No, he
fan.
was 18. Michael was
18.
18. He just turned 18. And like, and I, if that man doesn't come back, I will be shocked. Shocked. He's brilliant.
I I don't think that'll happen, but I could be wrong.
What do you mean?
I
He
don't
was
think that'll happen.
brilliant. So good.
I don't think it'll happen. I would rather have Chris Noble come back just for shits and gigs because going off on a brief tangent. Emily had never seen Chris Noble's Ponderosa video, and if you've never seen Chris Noble's Ponderosa video, you should absolutely
When
do it
I
and fast
tell
forward
you
to
that
about 6 minutes 30 seconds, and
6
it'll
minutes,
change your life.
38 seconds. Yep.
It'll change your life for the
Let me
better.
tell you, I don't mean to cut you off. I was
Oh
having a
no.
great day. I was having such a good day. Sun was shining, birds were chirping, and I text you all my thoughts about Survivor so I don't forget them, whenever we're starting to put together our podcast. You sent me this video of Chris Noble going to Survivor Ponderosa, and this man spent 3 minutes of my day rapping to me while he was. It was honestly ruined the whole day. Just throw the whole day away. Ruined
Call
it.
me Sammy Sosa. Oh man, I think that's what made like Chris was relatively annoying on the show. It was fine. Like
I think, and we saw a lot more humanizing characteristics with him too. Like, I mean, he definitely had like that like persona of like a frat bro or whatever you want to call it, but like
the model.
the model, yeah. But I mean, he also whenever he had a moment, like another piece that was really moving to me also was when he was talking with Donovan, and
Jonathan.
yeah. Oops, sorry. I keep calling him Donovan. I don't know why. Jonathan. Sorry, Jonathan, if you ever watch this. I really do like you a lot. But but he was talking to Jonathan. Jonathan was just like really like lamenting about how hard it is knowing that his mom really needs him, and how hard it is for him to be here to compete and do something for himself. And Chris had this really big heart touch, like humanizing moment when he was like, listen, like my mom's also really sick and we had to go back and forth about where to put her. And, and so I understand what you're saying, but you also have to take care of yourself. You have to, and like, so that to me was like a very redeeming moment, but what was not redeeming, was how he went out.
Yeah. You go out with an idol in your pocket and everyone is pretty much telling you, hey, we're probably going to vote for you. And Dom even says, Chris Noble, this vote is for, like, I think that was the same tribal.
Yes, he's
Chris
shouting
Noble,
it.
This vote is for you. And Chris Noble just, I'm fine.
Here's the thing, okay? Here's my thing. Okay, and then didn't Chris lost his vote that same episode, okay? So at this point, it's War of the Worlds. It's literally Team Dom versus Team Chris. One of them is definitely going to fall. There's no hidden agenda, even though the girls are kind of tossing around an idea of getting rid of one extra person. I think, was it Libby maybe? I think it was Libby. And like they were kind of tossing around this idea. But like Chris knows that he's on the chopping block and he only has two different tribal councils to play his freaking idol. Why wouldn't you use it whenever you know that your name's on the chopping block with at least a few votes? Like, I just, like, to me, that blows my mind. Why do you think he didn't do that?
Dom is not voting alone. So if Dom's screaming, I'm voting for Chris Noble, you should probably know that Dom is not the only one voting for you. And better safe than sorry. I mean, in my opinion, better safe than sorry. Play it and just, you know what? If I played it wrong, at least I made it another round for me to figure something out, but
and use it my next my next game. I understand what you're saying, but it's really frustrating to me because like I just don't understand. I guess he just felt so safe, and I guess like all of the people there, I know that a lot of people said that like that this jury in particular was very, very good at looking at your face and lying to your face. Dom said that a lot. He said that specifically with Desiree. Like he really trusted Desiree right before she tried to blindside him. So I think to me, it was definitely, oh my gosh. So to me, I think that sorry, my phone went off. I don't know. I just think that it made more sense to just play the freaking idol. If you have that advantage, use it,
Yeah. But we sidetracked a lot there.
Sorry, I didn't
mean to.
What
did you think about Wendell's game?
I liked Wendell's game, and I think that that's something that a lot of people, even now, and just like Survivor org, that they talk about a lot. Like, well, Dom did X, Y, and Z. Dom played the big moves. He was the person who used the fake idol to scare Sebastian, so he didn't use his extra idol to, or his extra vote. He did do very big, flashy moves. Yes, absolutely. He also had to lie a lot to get there. Okay. And that was kind of in his game, like his Achilles heel. With Wendell played a very different game. Wendell had a very gentle persona. He was a lot more authentic, a lot more genuine. He got to know each person on an individual basis, and he used a lot of his talents, in terms of like sculpting and home design and those sorts of things to really help to authenticate solid relationships with every single person whenever he, gave him a hug and kicked him out the door. you
Yeah.
know?
I sit on my, and this is not the first time I've gotten on this tirade, and it will not be the last time I go on this tirade in either
Do
this
it.
or any other time I talk to people about Survivor. Um, it is social strategic, not strategic social. The social player normally wins these games. This Ghost Island nails home that point because you have the two best players of the season socially and strategically sitting at the end, and they both hit their peak, and that's why that's why they tied the vote. And in the end, one of the reasons that third place vote goes to Wendell instead of Dom more than anything else has to be because of the social connection, those social bonds that Wendell and Laurel made with each other. That
Absolutely.
and it's so funny, especially in the 30s, the 30 through 39,
I was like, the
that
1930s. Where are we at? Sorry, go ahead.
30 through 39 were the majority of the winners during that span were social winners. And
Absolutely.
go play these online games, and you go on these forums and Reddit, and everyone's saying, it takes big moves and you have to be flashy to do this, that, and the other. It's like, how many people in the 30s did this?
Yeah.
Period.
And like, I will say, I agree with what you're saying, like, to an extent. I will say that every single game is completely different, which is why
True.
my name is the way it is. Winners at War season 40, all they were looking for were big moves. They weren't looking for feelings. They weren't looking for friends. They were looking specifically on how did you outwit and outsmart me in order to
All these
outlast
other
me.
winners. Yeah. How did you
Yes,
beat all these
exactly.
other winners?
Yeah, Redemption Island, honestly, it was very similar to that. Boston Rob, he did all the big moves, and Natalie did have bonds with a lot of the people who were on the final tribal, and in the jury, but it paled in comparison to
Yeah,
how.
and she also spent that entire time saying, "Oh yeah, Rob." I was like, "Oh my gosh."
Yeah, but honestly, it even like that could be like a story for a different time. But
Yeah.
even just like there were people that you were so close to, like Ashley, that like I really thought she would at least swing a few votes, and it was unanimous. So keeping that in
Oh no,
mind,
no, it wasn't unanimous.
someone got Philip, right?
File got a vote.
Wait, who?
Ralph voted for File
Oh,
to win the game.
File.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
yes. I was like, who are you talking about? But I mean, if we even consider like this game, I think that Wendell tried to appeal to the majority of the people who were going to be on the jury. Okay, so the people who were on the jury that voted for him were obviously Laura was that last crazy vote. Angela, right, who values family, Donathan values family. Sebastian he said he didn't have a strategic bone in his body the whole time. Kellen, who really tried to
He's
value
strong.
unity. Yes, the
Lady
queen. And
strong.
then Chelsea, who we don't know much about, but I would
We don't
assume
know
that
what's
she
happening.
likes him.
It's not
We would
Chelsea's fault.
assume.
It's
So I
not
can't.
Chelsea's fault.
Just Chelsea, but like Donathan, like I mean, he also took a gamble, at whenever he won that he was in that final four. He chose not to out to fight Wendell. You know what I mean? So what were your thoughts on his choice for that fire making challenge?
I mean, in that situation, well, first of all, I do appreciate the fact that Wendell and Dom kind of said, "Hey, in the event that this happens, Final Four, like we've got to go against each other because,
Yeah.
like we understand that we are the best."
Right.
Speaking for them, I didn't hate the move. Let's go with that. Thoughts?
I don't know. I think I'm sorry. Like I asked the question, but so I should kind of know my own answer. I feel like that would have probably been his money making deal. You know, like I think that that in itself would have solidified his win, because that already divided his chances literally in half of winning, and it took Laurel of all people to help decide that fate, which, like, you know, again, like unheard of in Survivor history. But I do think that he said that he was very confident in making fire, that he thought that he could do it better than Wendell. And I mean, I think that if it's worth a shot, it's better doing that than coming in second. I think that coming in second hurts more than coming in fourth and trying.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
you lose at fire, then it's like, okay, I know that I never got voted out at Survivor. I also know that I never straight up lost. I just lost at something that someone built a fire better than me. Aw
Absolutely.
shucks. I'll learn how to make a fire better next time if I ever get invited back.
Right.
Um, and you know, quickly going to another person at that final, Laurel, because Laurel, more than just Dom, I feel like Laurel, also besides her casting that final vote, Laurel helps Wendell a lot during the season. And yes,
And Tom.
we'll love to sit
And
there
Tom.
and
Yeah.
say, you know, Laurel didn't do anything and she should have flipped at any point, or like she could have flipped at any point, but she gives reasoning every time that she doesn't. It's not like she's sitting there and it's like, oh no, I think I can beat these two or this, that, and the other. It's like she can't she vocalizes why she's doing these things, and for better or worse, she thinks these are the things that she should be doing in order to get her to the end
Yeah.
at least.
I agree. And like honestly, I will tell you, like the first time watching, like I remember Laurel, you know, I remember her being in the final three. And I remember the first time that I watched this, I was like, why did she do that? You know, like why would she go all the way to the end whenever everyone is saying, you know, you have like that Wendell and Dom are the powerhouse and her moves are a lot more subtle. So it's a lot harder to see, like especially, you know, with a tribe that really thrives on bigger moves, you know. So I don't know. I had another point that I wanted to make here, but I don't remember. What was I going to say? I don't know. I think that like with her, you know, I think that she articulated herself so much better in the final jury than I remember the first time around watching it. Because I was like, I kind of remember that people kind of like grazed past her, but they gave her a lot more credit and she owned it too, you
Yeah,
know?
they did, and I think she kind of ran into a situation where if even if one of the two, if Wendell or Dom are not there and somebody else is there, let's just put Donathan there. I think
Sure.
Laurel gets votes. I actually think
Yeah.
that Donathan probably gets votes too, but I think because she ran into, for what it looks like, the best social and best strategic players of the season sitting at the end, she couldn't do it. It's similar to how, well, like Michelle and Winners at War, where like she's sitting next to Tony, who's clearly going to win, and Natalie, who fought her way back and did what she had to do to sit at the end. I think that Michelle, if she's sitting at the end with Tony and one other person, may get votes. But I don't like. There was almost no way that she was going to get votes there, and it sucks because Michelle played a great game in Winners at War. But that's for another time.
Yeah.
So I think that's the problem that Laurel ran into, is she was just with the wrong final three. Do I think
Right.
Laurel wins in certain final threes? Probably not, but that's not any discredit to her, because I actually, like, especially on a rewatch, and I think this is the second or third time I've
Yeah.
watched the season, like, I really liked Laurel, and I actually really loved her confessionals. And you could tell that she's a super fan, which was like the big thing going into the season. Oh, Laurel's a super fan.
Absolutely.
And you can tell she is. It's just, I think it was one of those things where like she got out there and realized you can prepare for it all your life, but until you're out there, you don't know.
Right. I do think that, I mean, I know that we have very differing opinions on like what it means to have a survivor resume. Like you hate them, right?
Yeah, resumes are
Like
dumb.
I love them. I think that it's important to at least just show, and like whenever I think of resumes, I think of like where you started and how you got there and like the different pawns that you had to play and the different cards that you had to show in order to get to where you're supposed to be, you know? Like it's all about moves and counter moves, you know? And so I really think that I don't know, like I think that like I lost my train of thought again. What was I saying?
Resumes.
Resumes. Yeah. I just think that like that her resume in itself would have definitely gone much further had she made that big move to get out one of the big players whenever she had the numbers, like if
Yeah.
she chose to switch, I think that maybe it would have, but then it would have just been a much more uphill battle to build those relationships in a different way, you
Yeah.
know? Yeah.
She was pretty much stuck. I can't even think of, and I should have written it down because it was like from that point forward, it's like if she flips now, she's screwed next time, or she's
Yeah.
screwed 2 rounds down. Like
Right.
she was almost, there was no situation, at least from what we were seeing, where she was making it out of this. She was either going to get voted out or losing at the end, just based off of what we're being shown. Now, obviously, that might not be true. She could have gone to the end and beaten people, Sebastian and like Libby or something like that.
Maybe.
I'm just throwing out names.
Right. Yeah.
Chris Noble. But
She would have beat Chris Noble probably.
But and that's why I don't shit on Laurel as much as other people do, because I don't necessarily think that Wendell saw her as a goat. I mean I can't speak for either one of them, but it didn't seem like Wendell was just saying, oh yes, just come along with me to the end. It felt like they had like a good thing going.
Yeah, I definitely think so, but I also think that him using his idol to protect her, in the final, was it the final 4? No, final 5. It was the final 5 because final 4 was fire making.
Yeah.
So he used his idol, and that alone I think was kind of a show, just to show how loyal he was, and I'm going to give you this idol because I protect you, and it's more than just in the game, like I will stay loyal to you, and here's my loyalty, proving that I'm a loyal player. So I think that in itself was also a pretty big move on his end to help to emphasize how important he was of a social threat.
Kind of a veering off for a second. I don't know why this popped in my head. Thoughts on Wendell winning the challenge and then not winning the challenge?
I was going to talk to you about that.
Okay.
How do I?
I mean, I agree with Jeff.
I agree. Well, I think
can't see everything. You gotta tell me that you're done.
And also, like, if I'm looking, like, we're gonna use my, I take notes every time, guys. I'm like a real student. So if I have my puzzle here, right, and I'm just staring at it, and I don't say, and I go like, like I don't say anything. That to me, if I was Jeff, I would be looking at that and I would be like, oh, like you're still looking at the puzzle to see if you're right or checking for errors or those sorts of things. Like unless you say something, then you can't.
These exact lines where I guess I had to call you.
And then the next time he won, he was like, Jeff
Probst.
Right. And Laura was actually a good physical threat too. I mean, she won 2 different immunity challenges? Or was it 1? I think it was 2.
Laurel, out of everyone on this season, like I said, this is my second or third rewatch, probably third. She definitely moved up a lot in my eyes as far as like one of the characters on Survivor that gets a lot of shit online that it turns out isn't that bad of a player, just ran into the two worst people to be playing against in a game. But she still got to the end. She still did what she needed to do to get to the end. I don't like this whole dragged thing because at any moment, something else could happen. I don't believe in dragged. And especially because I feel like Survivor players are smart enough to realize now that just because you drag someone to the end does not mean you're beating them at the end. So no matter what, no matter who you think that you're dragging along just so you can beat them at the end, until you beat them, like let's Sophie Coach is a prime example. Coach thinking he's bringing these two to the end, and Sophie wins. It's like, well, psych, she dragged you based off of how the people voted. It doesn't really matter what the audience says. I hate saying it like that because the audience, is the audience. I'm a part of the audience.
Well, I mean, we saw that
Opinion
with
does not matter.
yeah, we saw it with Russell Hanson 2 different seasons, him thinking that he was bringing, Natalie to the end at the very
Mhm.
end, and she was the woman who won, whenever he thought he was gonna bring the queen, Sandra, to
Yeah,
the end, right?
yeah,
And that he would have no votes against her, and he lost to not one woman, but 2 women
I
who
think
are
also
both
3, yeah,
queens in all ways, shapes, and forms, you know?
yeah.
So it's interesting.
Yeah,
Um, go ahead.
I and I think that's the problem, and I keep talking about this, and I know this is supposed to be more Wendell centric, but
No.
I think just because I have Laurel fresh in my mind, um, it's just it sucks that lack for a better phrase, but it sucks that she's gotten as much. I won't say hate, just like
Yeah.
whatever type attitude towards her from the larger community.
Yeah.
Um,
And I mean, we do see that almost every season. And unfortunately, I'm also, it's International Women's Month. So I'm going to speak my piece for my people. What up? But like, I think a lot of the time people bring women, who play more subtler games, which are not bad things, but I think they just choose to dismiss them, instead of really giving them the credit they deserve, and to make it to the end. A lot of it comes with a lot of strategy. We saw that in a few different seasons. The last season we saw, wasn't that an exact parallel? Was it with Jeremy? No, not with Jeremy. Was it with
Cambodia.
yeah, was it in Cambodia?
What about well, like what are we?
Wasn't there was another season that we watched. Was it no, it was in Earl's season. Didn't
Oh,
they also
Fiji.
bring yeah, didn't they brought a woman to the
Yeah,
end as
it
well.
was Earl, Dreams, and Cassandra,
Yeah.
and everyone. I mean, they were shitting on Cassandra and Dreams, but they were like, especially Lacey, it's like, oh yeah, you swam, like, yeah, wear your swim shoes, and like, oh, what the hell are you talking about? Go home.
Exactly. Exactly. And like that's the thing that people just kind of chose not to give her any position to speak her piece in the jury. It was just very, very dismissive, you know?
Yeah,
And that's what we see so many times, you know? But I don't know. So to me, I feel like that's just kind of I wish that people kind of emphasize more of the subtle moves. I mean, I know the big
yeah.
moves are the jaw dropping ones, but the subtle moves also get you there the exact same way, the exact same amount of days, you know?
Or and like, and especially and playing online games, everyone's always like, oh, you just floated to the end, or you floated right through the game. It's like, yeah, but I made it and you didn't. So,
Exactly.
like, you're out here being all flashy and everything, putting a target on your back. Eventually, you're probably going to go home.
Exactly.
Meanwhile, the people that are like, hey, not necessarily, they're doing things that save their butts, or they're sticking with people that are saving their butts. Oh
Absolutely.
well, not everyone can be overly strategic. Not everyone can be super fit. Not everyone's going to be a competition piece. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
Everyone should at least be able to socialize with others on the island. Period. Like, if
Yeah.
you can't socialize, why are you there? Like,
That is yeah. That's your support, you know?
no,
But I also like there was another piece that like I texted you about a while ago because I think that like I had like a big survivor revelation, just in terms of how people play socially. Sometimes you can see that directly. Actually, a lot of the time you see it in how they also parallel in challenges, you know? So like with Wendell, I noticed it immediately because at least in the few starting challenges, there were a few times when he was just really taking his time, very patient, very gentle. Like people were telling him to hurry up, and he was just very, very like focused, in every single way, shape, and form. And I think that that really kind of paralleled to how he played the game socially. He was very focused individually on each individual piece. He took his time and it may not have come off as flashy at the start, but at the end, he was able to piece it all together authentically to be able to create a really, a holistic picture and a really solid win. You see that with Sandra. Sandra was not someone who played a lot of challenges. Okay, we can just call it what it is. She didn't play in a lot of challenges, but that's how she coined herself as the snake in the grass. You don't see her coming, and she kind of works intermingling, in the environment that she's in, and then you don't see her until she comes up and bites you.
that's the point.
Especially with her big friend.
$100 million.
Yeah, right, right. With Boston Rob, we'll use some of the big characters, with Boston Rob, or Russell Hands. We'll use them both at the same time. Whenever they do challenges, they are the leaders. They are present, they are loud, they are proud. So you can see that immediately, and how that intermingles with how they work with their social play. I don't know if that makes sense, but that was a big revelation for me, and I feel like that kind of comes off with how a lot of different people play the game.
No, I like the correlation.
Thank you.
I
I
I
worked so
have to
hard on
actually
it.
like sit back and like watch,
Yeah,
but I like the correlation. I can
thank you.
agree with it.
Just not
Um,
every once in a while.
um,
As a no.
but we get to the end. Now we have to actually get to the vote. We get to the end. And what were your thoughts when Jeff said we're going to read the votes now? Did you know? Okay, this is tied. We're about to see what's going to happen, or
No, I honestly I thought it was gonna be like a live, like a tribal that was just gonna occur directly after the votes. I had no idea. What were your thoughts? What did you think?
I thought I don't know what's about to happen. I figured that was like the only thing that it could possibly be, just based off the fact there were 10 jurors. Um,
Mhm.
so he said we're going to read the votes now, and he starts reading them. It's like it tied, it tied, and Wendell's about to win this because it was I don't know, and Dom mentions it, and it's also very apparent on Dom's face.
Right.
Um, he knows it's over as soon as the vote is tied. He knows it's over. And that's credit to him for accepting it, and but that's what saves Ghost Island for me, is that those final moments where it's like, wow, this has never happened before. I'm so excited to see what happens. Even
Yeah.
though I kind of figured that the third place player would just be the one that casts the vote. Um, and I do think, or at least I hope, that it does happen again at some point.
Mhm.
I would love for it to happen again.
I think it's
Um,
possible.
it
Yeah.
it is it is. I think before that the closest we'd ever gotten to it was like Micronesia, or like a realistically happening was in Micronesia. Um, so I'm hoping that does happen at some point again, and I'm interested to see if they will actually change the rule. Like,
Mhm.
will they stick with the third person that gets plus the vote, or will they?
Revote first, or
Well,
yeah.
no, just let them say, "Hey, this is why. If you voted against me, this is why you should vote for me."
Mhm.
At the end, you can see what happens with that. But Wendell wins. I'm happy as always. And of everybody on this season, with the exception of Wendell, I do want to see Dom play again.
I would
I,
love to see them play again.
yeah,
Yeah, for sure.
I,
I
I would
think,
love to see Dom on a
yeah,
season of like a Second Chances 2, or Heroes vs Villains
yeah,
2, or just a returner season. I think that he could do. I think he could replicate. He's one of the people that could replicate what they did the first
yeah.
time.
I actually, I follow Survivor Quotes. You follow that Twitter
Yeah,
account, right?
they
And
use my they use my CBS, or what is it called, Paramount Plus.
do they really?
They use my Paramount Plus.
Wait, that's so cute. Tell them I said hi. And but I love that account. That's like one of my favorites for Survivor stuff. And they talked, like, there was someone who commented on one of their posts, and they were like, I think that it would be so cool to have like a duo season. So not blood versus
Yes.
water, but if it was like Tommy and Sarah, Dom and Wendell, I
Oh,
don't know, give
Tony
me
and Sarah. I'm like, who the hell is Tommy and Sarah? Tony. Okay, Tony and Sarah. All
yeah,
right,
Tony and
sorry.
Sarah. Yeah, Tony and Sarah. Like, I don't know. Like, and then Ricard and Shan. Like there would be like so many incredible people.
Duos, yes. That would
Yeah,
I would
absolutely.
I would love that. And
I
that
would
would be something
love
they've
that.
never done before. I guess technically they would have never done something like that before, if you don't count Blood versus Water. But I would be very interested in that. Or the other thing that I've always heard is people wanted is Rivals.
Yeah,
Which, once
that would
again,
be
you could
really
just do Dom versus Chris Noble if you really wanted to. Um,
cool.
but I do think this is one of the seasons where, besides the winner, I think we might at most get one person back, maybe two.
Yeah,
And I just think that's because of the way that one, that it was perceived by the larger audience, but two, because of how the edit went down, and we just don't know anything about Libby or anything about Michael Yeager besides the fact that he has a kind of cool tattoo and is 18.
Yeah.
Um,
And he's so cool. Oh, I loved him. He was a sweetie pie. He was so sweet.
it was,
I want him
um,
to come back. I do.
but to wrap all of this up, all 4 weeks of this, if you were to rank all
Ooh.
4 Black Winters, just based off of, not off of gameplay or anything like that, just based off of whatever criteria you have, how would you rank them?
So if I were to rank them, I will give you my criteria. Honestly, my criteria is the engagement of the entire season itself. I always look for a rise and a fall moment. Like I like to see, I'd like to see you broken down and built back up. That's like a big thing for me whenever I'm watching Survivor. And I like for you to be likable. I think that they typically do a pretty good job at editing people to make them likable, but I also just want to see them present at least from the start, and I want to be rooting from them, like at least for halfway through the season towards the merge, Jeremy Collins is my number one. I'm just like obsessed with him. I think he's a king and I think he's wonderful. I probably do Giuseppe a second. Wendell and then Earl, but I love Earl. I just the Fiji season, like it wasn't a vibe for me. You know what I mean?
I'd rather report this to Gia.
Don't tell her. She's my friend now. We're friends. We're traveling the world together.
If I were to do it, I would probably go based off of how it emotionally made me feel when I first saw it happen, and how I think back on it now, and just, I guess, gameplay I would throw in there too, I guess. And if that's the case, I would say Giuseppe 1, because Giuseppe is always going to be number 1 for me. Because
of course. Yeah, you love her.
Because I cried in a salon. Jeremy, Earl, Wendell. And that's, much like you said, it's not a knock on Earl. It's not a knock on Wendell at all. I like Wendell.
Yeah, Wendell's awesome. We're going to meet him next week. Yeah. Did you know?
I already have.
I'm going to meet him next week.
But I appreciate everyone taking the time, whether you listen to it live, listen to it on replay, listen to it on Spotify or any of that. Appreciate you taking the time to listen to these last 4 weeks. We are going to take a week off next week for the premiere. And then we'll be back in 2 weeks to do our first hot takes of the season. Hopefully it's on something exciting that happened during the episodes. Any final thoughts before we bounce?
Honestly, this was fabulous. I had a really, really good time being able to review all these different seasons, especially like when we were looking at, I don't know, like every different character and how all of these different characters and castmates won in such different periods of Survivor history. So I think that it was really cool to recap, especially recapping with you, Andrew.
Yes, we had 2 in old school and 2 in new school. So hopefully whatever school we're in now, we'll get, more than 2.
Yeah, it'll be awesome.
Yeah, so we will see y'all in 2 weeks. If you happen to be in New York City for the premiere party, please say hey. It'll be awesome.
Yeah. Let us know.
Yes, awesome. Let us know. And until then, we'll see y'all on the other side.